أبدأ خلاص يا إسماعيل؟
اتفضلي.
طيب، السلام عليكم جميعا. بالنيابة عن أكاديمية دبي لريادة الأعمال زراعة تعليمي لمؤسسة محمد بن راشد لتنمية المشاريع الصغيرة والمتوسطة، حابة أرحب بيكم جميعا في الويبينار النهاردة اللي بنتكلم فيه عن الفرانشايز، ومعانا طبعا 3 سبيكرز كلهم عندهم اكسبرت واكسبيرينس كبيره جدا في موضوع الفرانشايز. اتمنى ان انتم كلكم تستفيدوا من الويبينار، وبيكون في وقت مخصص للاسئله، وان شاء الله كل الاسئله اللي بتسالوها بنرد عليها. وحابه كمان ارحب بالسبيكرز. اسمحوا لي انا بس هتكلم كمان بالانجلش علشان احنا معانا نون Arabic speakers. Good afternoon everyone. On behalf of Dubai Entrepreneurship Academy, the educational arm of Dubai SME, I would like to welcome you all in this valuable webinar in franchise. I would like to introduce, we have 3 top-notch speakers from Dubai, from UK and Singapore. They all have experience in franchise. I hope all you will enjoy the topics. We have Mr. Marcel Portman from UK. Mr. Marcel will talk about the different and the most common franchise business model. Then we'll have Mr. Albert Kong from Singapore. He will talk about the franchise from entrepreneur's point of view. Then finally, at the end of the webinar, we'll have Mr. Sari Hamawi, the owner and the CEO of the franchise trainer. Mr. Sari will raise a very good discussion about 2 choices. Either we start our own business, or we can buy a franchise. So we'll see which is good for entrepreneurs after his interesting discussion. I will hope you will enjoy the topics, and I will leave now the floor with Mr. Marcel to start with his topic. Wish you all a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rania. We would like to offer our thanks, gratitude, and appreciation for all the efforts you have put to bring us together today. We would like to offer our special thanks to Dubai SME as the leading organization supporting SME enterprises and entrepreneurs. We would like to thank Dubai Entrepreneurship Academy for giving us the opportunity to speak out about our knowledge in franchising. Today is a new learning experience for entrepreneurs. Life is about mutual learning experience, so we wish that we mutually benefit all of us from this event. Learning is a continuous, for all entrepreneurs, is a continuous effort. So the only learning experience is the experience of continuous learning. We have a mission in the franchise trainer that we would like to use that the knowledge and experience and wisdom we have received over more than 30 years in franchising. We like to share that with young entrepreneurs, create a new generation of knowledgeable and passionate franchise entrepreneurs in the business, and maybe we can be of help to our own countries and economies in the region. Thank you very much, and let's just start to go ahead with Mr. Marcel Portman. Mr. Marcel Portman has more than 30 years of experience in franchising, and he was the Vice President of the International Franchise Association, IFA, for international expansion. That was one of his most important positions. So over to you, Mr. Marcel. And I'm going to your part of the presentation, which is the franchise format for inward and out franchise brands. Inward brands mean the franchisee coming from the outside of UE or of any country. The outward are the local franchises that expand from UE to the outside. So Marcel, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here once again. I appreciate the invitation from a franchise trainer and obviously from the Entrepreneurship Academy and the Dubai SME organization. I'm going to go through some of the basics about franchising. First thing I wanted, considering, I'm a firm believer that franchising is really an SME development tool, because in many cases it stimulates the growth and development of SMEs, which creates entry-level and managerial jobs. In the franchise networks, small medium enterprises, when they come together as a franchise network, they are able to compete with large integrated chains, and we can see that in worldwide. That is real cases of that. The franchise system also promotes the rapid expansion, rapid penetration. As a franchised organization, you're able to open multiple locations, in some cases at the same time, in multiple countries, and that allows for quick expansion and a rapid market penetration. A franchise network also provides reliable and consistent sources of goods and services for consumers. That is certainly something that sorry. Apologize. The franchise network, again, provides consistent, reliable sources of goods and services for consumers. And a large number of franchisees that operate in a multiple market can stabilize and influence national economies on an international trade, which provide job creation, training for local staff, and new technologies and standards for customer service. We again can see that with many brands that have come into a particular market, have brought in their new technologies, have brought in new ways of delivering service. And following the next number, it's franchising can also provide products and services that were previously not provided in the country. Again, that can be anything from a new product, a new service, a new vendor, a new product that may relate to a new ingredient, a new way of having ice cream, of having donuts, or having services of cleaning services, anything that was not previously in the market. And again, these are all SMEs. Franchising is, depending on the SME definition, an SME can develop other SMEs. So it's really a multiple generator of how to provide more SMEs in the market. And it's one of the few exports with positive balance of payment. That means that a franchisor exports its business, its service, it charges a royalty, and every time that royalty is paid, it's funds that come back to the country. So we call that a positive balance of payments as an export service. Next slide, please.
أنا حبيت أمسي عليكم، أهلا بكم كلكم. ملاحظة صغيرة بس، لو في أي استفسار عن السلايدز، في لغة مش واضحة أو في فكرة مش واضحة، بس اكتبوا ملاحظتكم أو سؤالكم في الشات بوكس، وأنا موجود معاكم بتحدث اللغة العربية، وموجود عشان أساعدكم لو في أي استفسار باللغة العربية أنا بين إيديكم. Back to you, Marcel. I was just telling our participants that I'm available in case they want to have any clarification in Arabic. Please go ahead.
I see a question if we're going to be sharing the presentation with us. I believe so. It's going to be coordinated through the franchise trainer and also the Entrepreneurship Academy. Good. Well, I wanted to just, you'll hear about franchising from my other colleagues as well, but I wanted to give you a very simple definition of franchising. It's a licensing method by which the owner of the product or service, which is the franchisor, will offer the right to operate and manage his product or service to others, which are called the franchisees, in return for a fee and an ongoing royalty payments. So it's a circular, it's an ongoing relationship, as you can see from the little tables here, the little boxes. The franchisor will provide the know-how and provide the support and will provide the trademark. And the franchisee, in return for this, has to pay an initial fee, an ongoing fee, which is known as the royalty, and has to put the infrastructure or anything that the franchisor requires for the business to be successful. This is a very simple definition. My colleague Albert Kong will be talking a little bit more in depth about the definition. Next slide, please. Now, when we talk about franchise formats, wanted to highlight, the ones that are most common, of course, some that you might have heard depending on the definition, but I'll start with direct franchising, is when a company decides to offer a franchised unit directly in a country that might not be through an area or a master franchise development. And that's also the single unit franchise. The single unit franchise is typically offered in a market locally. So a company in UAE would franchise out to another UAE franchisee in the market. It's not common to see single unit franchising from cross-border franchising, although in the Middle East you do see it. It's more relating to how prepared are you as a company to offer a single unit franchise outside your country. And job franchise is really a definition where you have a particular business that requires a franchisee to perform a job. It's very common in the service industry. For example, the cleaning services, there's multiple of franchisors that they will get the accounts for cleaning. They will make sure they do the billing, and they basically manage the relationship with the client. And what the franchisee does is only do the cleaning part. They do the work of having the employees, having the products to clean the machinery, etc. So it's basically performing the job that the franchisor has clients for. Again, the cleaning industry is very common to see this type of a franchise format. The turnkey franchise is also widely used. It's where the franchisor is able to provide a turnkey service or turnkey program where, for a particular investment, which is typically set, the franchisor says, for X amount of investment, you have the store ready to go. You don't have to worry about the build out. You don't have to worry about, finding the location, getting it ready, the machinery, the equipment. Everything is pretty much given to you. And the analogy on turnkey is you were given basically a key to run the business. And that's what a turnkey franchise would be. A conversion franchise is also quite common when you're going into new markets. If you're in a particular industry, a franchisor might identify a local company that is doing a business very similar to him or her, and decides that it's a good idea for both sides to agree that this particular concept that is not a franchise but is very similar and runs very efficiently can be converted. So there's conversion franchising where you find a business, you're able to ask this business to come to terms, and they adopt your trademark, adopt your service, adopt everything that has to do with your business. The master franchise is probably the most common used in international expansion. It's when I'm able to identify a partner, a group that is willing to take the concept to a particular country or a region, and typically has the rights to develop multiple units, and has the right not only to develop those multiple units, but also has the right to sub-franchise, which means that they're able to sell individual franchise units in that particular market and the master franchise will manage these sub-franchisees, we're calling them. The area development, which follows, the difference between the master and the areas, and in most cases, the area development does not allow for sub-franchising, but it does allow for multiple units, and it does allow for a large territory in some cases. Some companies will not allow franchisees to sub-franchise, and they just want them to do the business that the business is about, you know, serving coffee, the food, the hotels, things like that. So the difference between area development and master franchise is mostly the right to sub-franchise, the right to have third parties join into the franchise network. A management franchise is really, it's very common, and it's also called management, you know, business management, where the franchisor manages the management part of the business and takes care of running the admin side of the business. Again, it's called management franchise because the franchisee purchases the business and the franchisor is in charge of providing the management side of running the business. And lastly, the fractional or joint venture is not commonly seen, although it is something that nowadays, with everything going on in the US and Europe, there is more and more of these fractional and joint venture franchises. Fractional means the franchisor comes to terms with a particular interested party, and they join in the business and they create a joint venture. So they both put resources to develop this particular market, and it's a joint venture. What makes it a fractional franchise is that the terms of the agreement say that in a particular moment, and as the business keeps expanding and keeps moving along the agreed timeline, a certain percentage of the ownership starts going back to the franchisee, and up to a point when in a certain number of years, the business becomes fully franchised. So it's where the term fractional comes.
Marcel, in your point of view, which is the most suitable for entrepreneurs, for startups? Which franchise format is more suitable in this case?
Well, I think you know, single unit franchising, depending on the business, a little bit of area development as well. You know, in the past few years, we have seen the increase of home-based businesses. You know, businesses that can be run from either they don't need a location, physical location, and they are also called the you know, the social franchises as well. So depending on the potential units in the market, you can start with a single unit. That's where most companies that decide to franchise start with one unit that they are able to have their first franchisee, and then they move into area development, you know, and then that would lead to other formats.
Thank you, Marcel. And the next
slide.
slide is about direct franchising. Correct.
I will go through, you know, the what is exactly, how could you define direct franchising? You know, it provides controlled growth, which means you know exactly how you're going to grow because you're able to sell pretty much one unit or one location, one territory at a time. You do need to provide greater support because you will have multiple individual owners instead of having an area or a master. And in most cases, it is recommended that you have an in-country corporate office if this direct franchising is not in your home market. Or if your market is extremely wide geographically, such as Saudi Arabia, for example, if you're a company based in Riyadh and you want to open a location in Jeddah, obviously you can travel back and forth, but at some point you will need to have an office in Jeddah to manage these individual franchisees. And the table on the right basically it says that the franchisor model it has multiple arms, and each arm is an individual franchisee The franchisees are individual companies, individual organizations. So you as the franchisor have to deal with each one of them on a separate basis, making sure, of course, that they're all following what they have to do. And that's also something that Albert and Sari will be discussing. Next slide, please. Now, the benefits of direct franchising, certainly there's many benefits. I wanted to highlight a few of them. You have total control of the franchisee and the market development. Again, you can control your growth as much as you'd like. The potential of the market as well is also very much in your control. And having a location in one area of the country or another country may result in further regional growth because of brand awareness. Somebody might see this new location, this new unit, and an inquiry. You know, it's estimated that about 70% of franchise locations came about because they visited the location, they experienced the service or the product, and they inquired about it because they found it very attractive. So definitely it helps to grow if you have units. And local training may be provided to support other future 16 markets. I'll give you a real example. We have a client that opened its first location for the Middle East in Dubai. It's doing very well. It's a very nice location. And we are already in conversations with them through our client that for future markets, we don't need to bring these franchisees over to the US. It's a US company. And we will be providing the training for any future locations around the Middle East at the Dubai store. So that's certainly a benefit for the franchisor and for the franchisee, because he doesn't have to deal with traveling, the visas, especially in the next next semester or so, which traveling will still be a challenge. Next slide, please. And challenges, as any business model, it's not perfect. There are things to consider. There are, certain challenges to be aware. The increase in direct investment, because you have to make sure you're supporting these individual franchisees, you will have a higher investment in making sure that the rules and regulations and systems are followed, which means not only will you need to be prepared to do that, but you also will need to have reliable, qualified personnel, which means you might need to hire someone specially dedicated to the franchise operations side. At some point, that is a necessity, and that's something as well our other speakers will talk about. And you have to commit long-term to achieve sustained growth. The franchisor relationship with franchisee is typically sustained with a royalty flow. So once the royalty comes to a certain certain level, you're able to justify all your expenses. But at the beginning, if you only have one store and you have a 5-7% royalty rate, which is common, you are not going to be covering your expenses to take care of this franchisee. So that's something that you must be aware at the moment of offering direct franchising. Now, the second I want to talk about is the opposite of the direct franchising, but it's also one of the most commonly used, the master franchise or the area development franchise. It's typically a country or a region. It does allow the option of sub-franchising, depending on the company. There are some companies that do not want you to do anything but their actual business. So your business is to, if it's coffee, to serve coffee, if it's pizza, to prepare pizza. But in most of the master franchise agreements, you have the option to sub-franchise. And also in both cases, you have multiple revenue streams because you're able to open your own units and have revenue from them, and you're able to sub-franchise and charge a fee and the royalty to these sub-franchisees. So you have multiple revenue streams. In some cases, depending on the business, you might also be able to provide some revenue, some margin on the distribution of the product or service. The little boxes here, the franchisor awards the territory to a master franchisee, who in return has the option of having master units, which means he or she runs the units themselves, or can sub-franchise to other parties. So depending on the structure of the costs, you will be able to see how much would sub-franchising generate for the business. Next slide, please. Now the benefits, again, I'll highlight most of, several really many benefits. You're accelerated, you can accelerate multiple market expansion at a lower corporate cost. For example, you could sell 1 or 2 master franchises in a 12-month period. That means you'll expand to 2 markets in the same period, and your corporate cost is lowered because you don't have to travel to multiple locations in the same country, for example. The steady revenue stream to sub-franchising master locations. The franchisor typically will get a percentage of those sub-franchising fees. That is, depending on the negotiation that the master franchisee is able to do, but there is a revenue generator, not only on the sub-franchising fees, but also the sub-franchising royalties. You partner with knowledge. Your partner has knowledge of the market and culture. This is very important, and probably one of the reasons area and master franchising are so popular is because if I go to a new market and I don't have the experience in that market, I partner with someone that's been there, that has done business, that understands the culture, understands how real estate works, understands the labor laws. It's the learning curve is much, much quicker if I'm able to partner with someone that has knowledge in the market. And the partner is responsible, master franchisee, area developer is responsible to locally enforce the standards and follow franchising regulations, which is the franchisor is not subject to any liability in most cases. Depends the country, depends the business, but in most cases it relies on the actual partner that does that. So and also limits corporate direct financial exposure in case of failure. Again, the master takes a higher risk by paying an initial fee, by putting up the initial stores, the initial units, and if the business does not succeed, it is very likely that the financial exposure was much larger on the side of the master franchisee. And there's lower legal risks as well, for the same reason that the master franchisee is the one that takes up all the responsibility of following local laws. Next slide, please. And challenges, again, no business is perfect. Every business has its issues, and some to look at for master franchising area development is there's conflicts resulting from enforcing standards to subs and masters could happen. And the problem there is if you have a franchised network that has subs and master-owned units, and you have a conflict with the master, you will pretty much have a conflict with the chain of stores or chain of units that follow. Potential loss of control during franchising. If you don't have appropriate systems of control, you're not checking up on your master franchisee. The sub franchises might come up with their own ideas, might change a little bit the business. In some cases, that's helped a network, but in most cases, it has to stick to the standards of operation. And small markets have more cost than revenue. If you have a market that cannot hold more than 3 to 5 locations, and you decide to sell a master franchise, depending the business, you might not be able to have a successful P&L as a franchisor to support a 3 to 5 store market. And need to invest years of support before royalties cover expenses. That's also a very clear and something that any company that wishes to franchise needs to be aware of. You should not, if you're the franchisor, you should not be thinking that the franchise fee is going to cover all your expenses and is going to be a revenue generator. The franchise fee should be used to support the franchisee in their openings during their first 12, 18 months, etc. Master franchise agreements are difficult to mediate and terminate because of the complexities of having multiple units and having a large territory. And if you have not registered your trademark, which is the number one thing you should do as an entrepreneur and as a business, if you have a recognized brand, regardless of how you're going to expand, the recommendation is to register it. Nowadays, technology allows us to register online, allows us to have a very streamlined process. If you do not register the trademark, or you allow your master or your franchisee to register the trademark for you, thinking that you will have some savings on that, which, trust me, I've seen that happen. If there is a conflict and you need that trademark back, there is probably going to be some issues with that. Next slide, please. Good. Well, I wanted just to example of, we're talking franchising. Franchising is a type of licensing a product or a service. The differences that lie between franchising and licensing, very briefly, franchising agreements are typically longer. They can be from 5 to 20 years because they need to allow for you to be able to recover the investments. Licensing, on the other hand, it could be shorter agreements, such as 12 months. Especially in the apparel industry, where the manufacturer would allow you to put the brand on a particular clothing, and you have 12 months to prove if you're able to be a successful licensee, a successful agent. Apologies. And on the other end, franchising, the initial payment for territory and training, as well as ongoing payments for additional units, exist in the model of franchising. That's how the model sustains itself, and that's why companies decide to franchise. In licensing, it may include design and manufacture and distribution rights. There is typically no initial fee in most cases. There are purchase minimums. So mostly, again, in the apparel industry, you will see that a particular brand will ask you to, you don't have an initial fee, but you have to purchase a minimum stock requirement every year. The industry-specific experience is not required in some cases. This is one of probably the biggest difference between franchising and licensing, where if you buy a business in the pizza industry and you've never done a pizza, not even at home, a good franchisor, a well-prepared franchisor, should be able to teach you everything about the pizza industry, about the restaurant industry, how to manage, how to prepare, how to cook it, what equipment you need, guide you through the process. And some companies, actually, some franchise companies don't want people that have experience in the industry because they don't want them to bring in their own ideas about how to run a particular business. So the difference with licensing, on the other end, on the experience side, is that most licensees are expected to have experience and involvement in the industry that they're looking at, and have the appropriate channels for sales and distribution. Again, the apparel business, the automotive business, you're typically not going to be able to get the rights for Versace in your market if you are not in the garment industry, if you are not aware of how to sell the product, the particular service. So that is a very key difference between franchising and licensing. And the last one I wanted to highlight is, the royalty, the income. A franchise will have a percentage of sales in a given period and has the share the additional unit sales if sub-franchising. That's where revenue comes mostly from franchisors. On the licensing side, it's a percentage of sales. You can have the right to manufacture, and then you put a margin on the product, or you will get the product ready to sell, such as, the automotive is a clear example of that, where you get the cars ready to sell. You have no incidence on the manufacturing process of the cars. And you agree to sell X amount of vehicles in a period of time. And, your gain comes from, the cost above factory price. In some cases, again, the clothing industry, once you have a relationship, you are able to have credit limits where you're able to purchase the stock, and you can pay in 30, 90, 60 days. That is not the case with franchising at all. So that's a little bit of, I wanted to just explain the differences between franchising and licensing, that there are many, many others. And if any other questions come up. I believe this is my last slide, Sari. Yes, and any questions on anything I've discussed? If we need to translate from Arabic, Sari is happy to do so. Thank you once again for the opportunity. I'll be here most of the time if any questions come up.
Thank you, Marcel. That was very insightful. I've seen one Mr. Mohammed raise the hand. If you have a question, Mr. Mohammed, just please text it on the chat box. Otherwise, we'll just continue with our presentation. Maybe we can take some questions and answers like for the next 5 minutes, if you wish so. So please go ahead and text your question in the chat box, please. I take it it was very clear. I have a question here, Marcel. How much the average percentage of the royalty?
Okay, yeah, the royalty typically on what's called a full business format franchising, which is the franchisor gives you everything to set up the business. They're obviously it's the royalty reality check is something we always tell our clients to make sure that they are not imposing a high royalty, but the average will go anywhere from, I've seen as low as 3% all the way up to 15%. Really depends on business. I would guess the average is 5%. Is an average that I've seen. I don't know what our other colleagues have, but that would be an average royalty that you can expect as a franchisor and as a franchisee. What you can expect to pay is 5% of your sales before taxes.
I'd like to add to that, Marcel, if you allow me. Like you said, it is different from one business to another. Now I'd like to highlight that there are two types of businesses. One is product-oriented franchise, and the other one is service-oriented franchise. So let's imagine that we have 100%, whereby at the beginning we have a purely product franchise, and this is where the royalty must be at the minimum, maybe sometimes no royalty at all, because the franchisor makes most of his money from selling the products to the franchisee. Now, if we move to the service side, the food and beverage has part service and has part product. So like Marcelo said, a good average would be 5%. I've seen more than that, I've seen less, but a good average is 5%. And then when you move further to the service side of the franchise business, the royalty tends to increase because there is no product to sell to the franchisee. So for example, if you go for education franchise, it can reach up to 18% or sometimes 20%, in addition to license to obtain the rights to teach some specific curriculum. Albert, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, thank you. From my experience, at the end of the day, the financial model has to tell the story. At the end of the day, the franchisor and the franchisor's franchisees, they must be satisfied that, whatever the numbers are reflected on the Excel file, on the financial model, is reasonable, So I have, in my 31 years in this business, seen franchisors actually allowing some franchisees to negotiate on, like paying a lower entry fee or franchise fee and then upping the royalty and vice versa. So what I want to say is, it must be a scientifically derived number. It should not be plucked from the air. Meaning that the franchisor should be able to explain to you why the royalty is like that. and how finally the return on investment will look like. Thank you.
True. It's a matter of cost plus. So for a franchisor to support a franchisee, he spends money. There is cost involved in supporting a franchisee, providing loan support and training and ongoing support and advice and guidance. And with that, they need to put a good price to the franchise package they're offering. And it shouldn't be exaggerated. It should be, like I said, based on cost plus. The franchisee, the franchisor must make some money on it, but it shouldn't make a burden on the part of the franchisee. There should be a win-win situation here. Another question, gentlemen. What franchise books do you advise us to read?
Well,
Okay, Marcel, you go ahead.
Well, that's probably, you know, Sari and Albert are much more literate than me, so I will defer to them on that.
Albert?
When I first started as a franchisee of a franchise hailing from the United Kingdom, one of the first books I picked up is Behind the Arches. You know, it is a really very readable book. It tells you in big detail how McDonald's started and how it evolved. And, you know, it's a very good book to read, very readable, almost like reading a novel. Yeah. Another book I would recommend, but it's a bit more scholastic, is written by our friend Michael Siet, which is the founder of MSA Consultants. It's called Franchising for Dummies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's also a pretty good book. If you were to read both the sort of novel Behind the Arches and then this book, at least these two are my favorites. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert. And I would like to advise that if you visit our website, we have what we call the Franchise Success Library. And we have partnered with Amazon and featured some of the most popular franchise books on that part of our website. One more question that's a little bit complicated. Gentlemen, legally, what are the points to keep in mind? So what legal consideration? Marcel?
Well, you know, franchising is based on contract law. So basically, there's the three main aspects you should be looking at as a franchisor or a franchisee is the reliability of the franchise relationship, the contract, the enforceability, how can I enforce if I'm able to enforce the agreement, and if the local laws allow me for enforcement. That's what typically is called a franchise-friendly market. And what are the rights and obligations, and what happens if I'm not able to fulfill those rights and obligations? What are the remedies that are allowed? So, you know, I would highlight those three things as of very importance. As a franchisee, compliance with local law, contract enforcement, and dispute resolution mediation are extremely important. Nowadays, I mean, we advise that all franchise contracts have some sort of mediation, arbitration in them to not get to a point where you have to go to court, because not only is it expensive, but it is very damaging for any brand to have to go to the extent of having a legal battle. So arbitration, mediation, you know, Dubai Mediation Center, there's centers all over the world. London, of course, has a very good one, expensive one. Paris has been traditionally used, the ICC. So anyway, that would be my quick advice on the legal side.
There is an arbitration office here in Dubai, which many franchisors, even from North America and Europe, tend to find it very reliable in making resolutions between franchisors and franchisees. I would add to that, Marcel, I suggest any franchisee would have to look very carefully at the termination, the franchise contract termination clauses, because you don't want to fall into a breach of the contract, and then you find yourself terminated. And with that, there are post-termination clauses that you have to cease the business. You have to return everything that is related to the trade name and trademark and operating manuals to the franchisor. Albert, another comment on that?
Okay. To me, I think both, Marcel and Sari, you have got very good points. I would also advise that you very quickly look into the intellectual property, because, well, you hope it doesn't happen, but sometimes, the franchisor might not have protected his trademark properly. A classic case is Burger King going to Australia and finding out that somebody has already, used that name, and they had to operate under Hungry Jack's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in certain countries like China is on a first to register basis. So even if you are a very well-known name, but you didn't register in advance, you may just lose the game and then have to pay for, to get back the name. Yeah. So I thought this might be something to think about. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert. Mr. Midhat al-Masri, the question, with the current situation of Corona era, or even in short term after Corona, what are the business sectors that we should be in? Please recommend.
Well, if I would have known a year ago, I probably would have bought some Zoom stock. That's the first thing I would have done.
Yeah.
But I would say that, this particular situation we're in has made several industries highlight their businesses a lot more. Delivery services, anything that has to do with ordering online, the packaging services, things like that. But I think if your business is able to evolve and adapt to a new reality, which some businesses have, others have not been able to, but there are some businesses that you might have thought will not survive, they have been able to. But I would say anything has to do with what this crisis has showed us is that we need to take better care of ourselves. We need more time for ourselves, and that is where wellness and health come in. I see an increased interest in anything that has to do with being more healthy, being more productive. Of course, home-related businesses, is the reality of having an office in downtown London going to be something that will be as big as it was a year ago? I don't know. I've been able to work from home for over a year. Certainly my productivity gets a little messed up sometimes, and I miss those, those coffees in the corner with my colleagues. But if I'm able to do my business at home and I'm organized enough, there's certainly businesses that I've talked with that have helped me understand how I can work from home. So I would think service industry, health, wellness, those are the ones that come to mind. Anything that delivers, here in London, there's a big outfit now that takes your clothes, your laundry, will take all your laundry from home, will take it and then will deliver it. That is something that you might have not thought doing a year ago, but now with restrictions, lockdowns, they are booming. They're doing very well.
Mm-hmm. Albert?
Yeah, I think Marcel has basically covered all the ground. I think, broadly speaking, health-related, education-related, sanitization of, bedrooms and household and what have you. Those, because people are afraid. People want to have contactless kind of transactions. So using IT, providing training through Zoom, going to people's house to clean and disinfect. Quite commonsensically, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one more to add, which is based on observation. Quick prints businesses with social distancing and many signs and required everywhere in retail stores, whether food or otherwise. I think they had a very good time in their business during the Corona virus. I have another 3 questions or more, and I suggest that we take care of that maybe after Albert's session. So Albert, do you want to start your presentation now? And Albert's presentation is the ingredients of a successful franchise model and the relationship, which is really interesting between the franchisor and the franchisee. And before you start, Albert, I have here a quote: everyone can tell you the risk, but an entrepreneur can see the reward. That's the difference between. And if you don't know Robert Kiyosaki, he is the guy who wrote this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm not sure if, and this is really a really good book to read. I'm trying to show here, and it's about choosing to be an employee or maybe start your own business. And so please note down the name of this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a beautiful book and very inspiring, ideaful, and intriguing at the same time. Albert, over to you with your first slide, please.
Yeah, please move that to the next slide. Yes. Well, this slide is to supplement what Marcel has shown also in his presentation. I think I will say this way, that basically there are 3 key elements in franchising. So you have 2 people, one is a franchisor, one is a franchisee. And then there's this thing called the system and the know-how, which is the 3rd element. So the franchisor, as depicted here, is a very experienced person, for example, in the fishing industry. And the franchisee is a person interested in this industry, but has no know-how or not well known, and maybe have very bad fishing skills. So, you know, basically this franchisee, he says that, okay, I like to have your system, I like to have your name, because then people will buy fish from me, right? You know, and and I'm willing to pay, you know, to get all this. So entrepreneurs, another word for entrepreneurs were businessmen, and businessmen are in business to make money, you know. So basically, you know, in a franchise, you need to have these very key 3 elements. Next slide, please. Right. You know, so I've spoken in 46 nations on franchising, and many people always ask me, say, what is the best franchise? You know, since you say that franchising is for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs go into franchising, so, you know, what is the best franchise for me to buy, or, you know, for me to build a franchise so I can recruit franchisees? So I often say that, look, you know, you always go back to basics. You know, whether you speak to the best architect in the world or the best scientist, they always go back. Their basics are very solid. You know, if they get their basics wrong, then everything is wrong, right? It's just like your foundation for your building. If your foundation is wrong, your building will topple. It will fall off. It will collapse, right? So what are the 4 P's? Product. So if you go into a business or you franchise or you become a franchisee of a product or service that nobody wants, you know, then you're in trouble, right? And you know, we all know that different countries, different cultures like different things, you know, diet, religion, and what have you. So you must make sure that the product or the service that you're getting, okay, is something that your market wants, right? The next one is the price. Now, if you price yourself out of the market, you know, very strangely, human beings being very sentimental and emotional at times, you know, if you price it too cheaply, whilst you have a very good product, a superior product, maybe, you know, people may think that, hey, you are not confident and maybe it's not as good as you claim, right? Or if you overprice, then you can't really capture much of the market. So you don't want to have a 6-star hotel in Afghanistan, and who is going to go there and stay, right? So the pricing is out of the way, right? And then promotion. No matter how strong or how long you have been around, you need to promote and promote well. Till today, McDonald's, they do TVC, television commercial, even though they are the strongest player in the hamburger market, right? Because they want to make sure that their target audience, the people that will buy from them, have McDonald's as top of mind. The minute they think about fast food, they think about McDonald's, and it's constant. You don't say that, hey, I have arrived and I stop promoting. No. The next P is place. If you are located in very bad areas, for example, 7-Eleven, would you put a 7-Eleven on the 4th floor of a building or in a very deserted area? No, because if you study 7-Eleven properly, they actually place a premium on their products, meaning it's a bit more expensive than if you were to buy that piece of soap or that jar of peanut butter from a supermarket. Well, because they choose very busy places and provide convenience, so there's a premium. So the place is very important. They make sure that people can reach them very quickly. Of course, nowadays with social media, with the internet, we're talking about cyberspace now, yeah. But still, even the physical location is very important. Now, there are other P's to consider. Nowadays, the millennials, the Generation Zs, they are very concerned about how you package your product. If you have lots and lots of plastic and they take 400 years, like the mask that we are wearing to fight COVID-19, then it's bad packaging. So if your competitor has a much more environmentally friendly packaging, they will go for it. There are other P's, even the personality of the trademark, how the trademark is put across is very important. I'm sure again that certain cultures like certain colors, certain cultures like certain pets and don't like certain pets. So things like this need to be considered, because at the end of the day, you don't want any of the P's to turn off your customers. Okay, next slide, please, Sari. Now, everybody knows this guy, and I just mentioned one of the book is Behind the Arches. So it's about Ray Kroc, how he cleverly bought over the business from the McDonald brothers, and how he quickly turned, McDonald's into a chain, just pounding and exploiting on several factors, which is speed, cleanliness, value for money, yeah. So it's very interesting, yeah. And he said that franchising means that you are in business for yourself because it's your business, but not by yourself. Because why? There's a franchisor that is constantly thinking of R&D and coming up with better products, using better packaging materials, better training materials, and there are other franchisees, that are recruited by the franchisor, but they too are constantly thinking of how to improve, so you don't feel so lonely. You're not fighting the war by yourself. What you actually have to do as a franchisee is to give very good service and to follow the system, in a very, sort of obedient way, and not try to, reinvent the wheel and start doing things that are not stipulated by the franchisor. So you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Next slide, please. Now, what is interesting about the relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee is, as you have seen in my first slide, franchising has 3 elements: the franchisor, the franchisee, and then the system and the know-how, right? The whole mechanism behind this relationship, right? You know, it's so important that in 2003, the International Franchise Association, which is till today the world's largest franchise association, you know, they accepted franchisees as members. If you were to look at the history of franchise associations around the world, not just America, but in America particularly, because they are the first franchise association. Franchise associations normally is meant to cater to franchisors' needs, and you know, and it is a lobby group. It is you know, a group that shares information, best practices, and franchisees are actually not part of the association. But they realize that the franchisees are getting more and more and more, and clearly there'll be more franchisees in the world than franchisors. Yeah, and if you don't manage them well, they can actually, you know, become, you know, a force that counters your plans and counters your ways. So 2003, IFA, the International Franchise Association, accepted franchisees as members, and till today, you know, there's a permanent seat at the IFA board, you know, for the chairman of the franchise forum, which is basically for, you know, the relationship between franchisor and franchisee. And on a yearly basis, IFA does this franchisee satisfaction survey, which is very important. And let me go into a bit of detail as to why, you know, it is important. Sari, next slide, please. Right. So we all know that, you know, franchise relationships, just like even relationships between family members, husband and wife, brothers and sisters, you know, they get strained. But in the franchising arena, particularly because of stress, you know, because, you know, you in business, there's stress, you know, things can go wrong, the suppliers may come late, you have employees that, you know, are not doing things properly, you know, you may have problems with your landlord, etc., etc. So when people are stressed, they get cranky and they become very difficult to deal with, you know. So whether you are a franchisor or a franchisee, you know, there will be workplace pressures, right? And so, you know, it will test your patience and what have you. Another thing that can cause relationship to be strained, okay, is change. You know, I mean, even COVID-19 is causing so much changes in the way, you know, restaurants and retailers clean their office. They have to spray this, you know, in fact, disinfectant, they have to wear masks, they have to make sure that the person standing in front of you is at least, you know, a meter, or in some places more than 1 meter away, you know. So change can also cause relationships to be strained, right? And then of course perception, you know, like I said earlier on, we human beings can be very emotional. You know, perception, sometimes we perceive things wrongly, you know, just someone's body language can make you upset or make you happy, you know. So so these are some of things that can cause relationships to be strained. But in the franchising arena, you must minimize that. It's because if the franchisee and the franchisor have a strained relationship, you know, a lot of the things that are supposed to be carried out may not be carried out, okay? And then the brand name can be affected. You know, because if you have a very unhappy franchisee that refuses to follow certain orders, you know, or follow certain procedures, you know, customers will know. They say, how come when I go to this restaurant, the food, you know, is colder? How come it tastes different? How come when I give certain feedback, you know, I don't get the same kind of speed as I got in another restaurant which has the same name, same brand? Let's go to the next slide, Sari, because I will show you how, you know, franchisee sort of go through a process, you know, and this is very real because it reached a point whereby this gentleman by the name of Greg Nathan, based in Australia, he actually has been he has written books on franchise relationships, and he has even given lectures in several countries, in America, even in Singapore, on this. So just very quickly, we call it the franchisee factor. So what happens is, the franchisee, when the franchisee is new, is in a glee period, meaning, wow, everything is so nice. I'm so happy. I'm so privileged. I'm telling all my friends and family members, I've just become the franchisee of McDonald's. Wow, and I'm motivated. I want to be successful. I want to tell people that, hey, now I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a franchisee. And after sometimes, when this franchisee has learned so-called the ropes, and then he becomes more knowledgeable, he begins to say, you know what, I'm a businessman. How come I have to pay so much royalty, to my franchisor? How come, the potato I buy, is this price per sack of potatoes? And I know that if I were to buy from the market, in town, I might get it cheaper. So they start to question, about the fees. Then as with the passage of time, it becomes a me stage. They say, you know what? Other than having to pay the fees, I realized I'm working so hard. It's all my effort, and it seems like the franchisor is just sitting and looking pretty and collecting, royalty from me. I'm not very happy. And then the next stage he goes in, he say, hey, you know what, maybe I should find a way to free myself from the franchisor, because I'm becoming more and more and more unhappy, because, he's taking royalty from me, he's asking me to buy this, he's asking me to, renew, change my signage because the signage looks old, and so, no, I want to free myself, from the franchisor. I want to be independent, so you find this franchisee will find ways to just find fault with the franchisor. And so this is a very bad period. And then, of course, with maturity, and also finding out that actually other franchisees may not have, as much freedom, and also finding out that, hey, actually the franchisor makes me buy this potato because this potato is of a certain, genre. It is not so sticky. Actually, when it is fried at this temperature, it is very crispy. If I were to buy from my own market, that potato will make very bad French fries and has no flavor. So you begin to see and realize that, oh, actually the franchisor charged me because they have to do a lot of R&D. They look at how to fight Burger King, Five Guys, In and Out, so now I see that my franchisor has a reason, and then finally, with even more maturity, the franchisor reached the we state, meaning, okay, we are one family. We are part of you. Your success is my success, and my success is your success. And because we are part of the family, I will also contribute good ideas to headquarters and say, you know what, I realized that, when I did this, if I were to do it this way, actually I save some time. Would you like to consider, Mr. Franchisor? And so everybody's relationship become better and better because of the so-called binary kind of relationship, because of the interdependence relationship. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Albert. I'd like to add to that, if you allow me,
yes,
please. Yeah, I've done presentations before on the franchisor-franchisee relationship and compared it to a father and son relationship. So when the child is still young, he sees his father, the franchisor, as the ideal model, the perfect person, the only guidance. And then the child start to grow up and move to a teenage stage, and that's where he seeks independence. So they go to the franchisor and he says, you haven't done anything for me. I've done all my successes myself. I don't have to pay you. I don't have any gratitude for you. And then the child grows further and he goes into the interdependence, whereby both parties get to understand. And عندنا في العربي يقولوا إن كبر ابنك خوي. So this is a stage whereby both parties understand and realize that they need each other in the business. And this relationship, the dependence, independence, and interdependence needs to be managed by the franchisor. Franchisor must be aware of these stages so they can manage. All franchisees go through these stages. Thank you, Albert, for allowing me to add to your idea. Really, really inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Well, we have gone through this one. Let's move to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, we did this already. Yeah. So, of course, just now I also mentioned about perception. You know, again, if we were to look at our own lives, and we look at our relationship with our friends, our family members, you know, for a relationship to work and grow and become strong, I think respect is a very important thing. You know, and I add culture there. Just to share with you, you know, in Korea, my sister-in-law happened to be a Korean. I'm not. My ancestors are from China, so I'm Chinese in that sense. But the Korean culture is very interesting. You know, they emphasize a lot on seniority, and seniority can come in many forms. If I were 1 year ahead of you in high school or in college, I'm your senior, so you have to respect me. If I'm older than you, even by 1 year, I'm your elder, so you have to respect me. You know, and then of course, if I'm your boss, I'm your superior, you have to respect me. And so even in, let's say in a very casual dining situation, for example. So if you are my superior, when I drink something, for example, if I were to drink this cup, I cannot look at you. I have to turn one side and drink. If I were to look at you and drink, I'm disrespecting you. So, you know, so imagine you having a franchisee or a franchisor, you know, which is from Korea, and you don't know this, you know, well, they may excuse you, but they may not be very happy, because they would think that you should have done your homework and read up about a Korean culture, and that since you are the franchisee, which means you are my junior, you shouldn't drink in front of me like that, you know. So these are little things, but it can so-called either minus the number of points, you know, in that relationship, or it can add up if you show respect, right? And the other common thing, which Sari will agree with me, is in our 30 over years in franchising, we realized that in many cases, franchisees are not happy because they perceive that the franchisor is not giving them enough support, you know, ongoing support and regular training, you know. And worse still, especially when the market has lots of competitors and copycats, you know, then they will start to blame the franchisor for not having done enough, you know. So these are little things, but they add up. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay, so how can franchisees be made to feel as part of the family? I think, you know, many franchisors, before the franchisee actually begins the journey, they actually have a discovery day. And during the discovery day, a lot of the franchisors' visions and values and what have you are shared, you know. And of course, a lot of emphasis, at least as far as my clients are concerned, we tell them, you select your franchisees very carefully. Okay, don't take on someone who's willing to pay immediately. See if this person is willing, or at least are in the same frequency as far as your values are concerned. Okay, if they don't share the same values as you, then even if they're the richest person, you know, it may not be a good relationship later on. Yeah. Another one is, you develop tools to build and enhance relationship. Of course, the intranet, WhatsApp, and nowadays there are a lot of franchise management software that you can buy, off the shelf, and with a bit of customization. These gadgets, these tools, this software will help you to enhance the relationship in terms of communication, in terms of the speed of delivery, etc. And then finally, commit to having regular meetings. Even during this COVID period, just by looking at one another's face, even through Zoom, is more than not having any interaction. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay. And so these are, again, we glean this from many years of experience. So signs that things are not going well: attitude. The attitude changes. The cold shoulder you get. No replies. Sales keep dropping. And then they are starting to, delay in their payments. And all of us want to make friends with our business partners. And if you look at the English word friend, which is spelled F-R-I-E-N-D, if you were to take out the R, which is the relationship, then friend becomes fian. And if you were to look at the dictionary, a fian is actually an enemy. So you don't want your business partner to be your enemy, because the relationship has been gone. Yeah. And next slide, please, Sari. Yeah. Okay. So to solve problems, again, many of you are very wise people, and we face problems and we solve them. So again, just very quickly, you always define what's the problem, and then you identify what are the approaches, and then you agree between yourselves the steps that you're going to take, and then make sure you are sincere, and make sure that the steps are actually taken and follow up, and by monitoring. And finally, there's a Chinese saying, which I'll share with you. It says, 路遥知马力，日久见人心. Basically, it means that if you want to know whether a horse is good, you take the horse on a long journey. Now, if you want to know whether a person is good, you spend time with this person, So it's the same relationship, Time will tell, Yeah. Next, please.
Would you repead that Chinese saying again in Chinese?
Okay.
I like the sound of it.
Okay, so it's in the recording. So it says, 路遥知马力，日久见人心. Okay, so the first part is about, knowing a horse through a long journey. The second part is knowing a person through the process of time, through the passage of time.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think I'm left with one or two slides left. Okay, so the letter C, for those of you who have listened to my lectures in other countries and what have you, I've always played with the letter C. So on the franchisor side, the commitment is, I'm committed to this relationship. You can count on me to make the brand stronger. You can count on me to do R&D. You can count on me, to help you, to support you, to give you training. On the franchisee side, the franchisee said, yes, I'm also committed to this relationship. You count us in. We will give the best customer service, and make your brand consistent, and customers will be loyal to this brand, all right, regardless of which outlet they go to. Yeah. Then the next thing is communication. Both parties must communicate. If you choose not to communicate, you can't solve the relationship problem. Next one, C, is this continuous support. The word continuous is important because things change. The COVID-19 scenario is a classic case. During this period, the franchisor continually give advice, say, okay, in the past, nobody worries about wearing the mask. But now, okay, you know, we have figured out that, you know, this is the best way. This is the way to make sure that your employees are safe and that they won't catch the virus, etc., etc. Yeah, and competitiveness. The franchisor must continue to make sure that the brand is competitive, and as far as the franchisee is concerned, continue to, you know, comply and not try to, you know, be too clever and change things, because the wheel is already invented. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, you know. And then franchisor will continue to understand that the franchisee as an entrepreneur will look at cost, you know, will look at his profit margin, you know, his net profit. So he should not try to, you know, overload and cause the cost factor to be too high. And for the franchisee, you will consistently apply the standards that are stipulated by the franchisor and consistently give good service, you know, because as you know, franchising is about consistency, it's about standardization, it's about following the system, you know, so it's very important. And I think I have one more slide. Right. So the ultimate objective of franchising, okay, is the franchisor wins, but the franchisee must win too. Then the relationship will be strong. Then both parties make money, right? The consumer must win too, because if your product is unhealthy, your product is, you know, packaged in such a way that it pollutes the ocean and many turtles and whales and dolphins die, you know, and the earth suffers, it's no good, you know, and it's bad for the consumer, right? So the consumer must win too. And then other parties like, you know, the suppliers, the banks, logistics, this business must be thriving so that, you know, the people, the third parties, your suppliers, the people who make your marketing brochures, they all benefit. And of course, with all this, the country wins. So it is a, you know, win, 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 5 wins, you know, and that's why, just to let you know, Singapore, Malaysia, many governments support franchising because they realize that franchising is actually very good for the economy. You know, it produces more entrepreneurs, you know, it makes people innovate. Okay, and the productivity has increased because, you know, all these new entrepreneurs, they don't have to spend time thinking of things that are already thought about by the franchisor and proven to work, you know, so productivity goes up. So the entire country wins. Yeah. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. I invite you to, you know, send questions in. Thank you very much.
Right. We have some ready questions from the previous session, Albert. And Marcel, if you would like to join, if you're still with us. We are Mr. Muhannad Haroon. Thank you very much, Mr. Muhannad, for attending our webinar. He says we are based in a market where no franchise culture. We face resistance and difficulties in attracting people and even in explaining to them what franchise and what are the benefits. What would be your advice for such a case? Thank you.
Yeah, I would start by, you know, my experience on the institutional level of franchising. The communication about the benefits and the education about franchising are very important. So I've been fortunate to be involved in many projects to develop a franchise market, a franchise economy. And in the case of the gentleman's question, I would say the ability to get together with other peers that are interested in franchising and form some sort of communication, some sort of networking group that you're able to evolve this to maybe becoming a franchise association, a franchise chamber. You know, some markets don't allow for that to happen. So I have seen many examples, but in the end, it's being able to communicate the benefits of the franchise model, being able to communicate how do you franchise the same way we're doing now, and have a constant reminder of how you can approach, the government entities, especially the SME promoting agencies, are very much interested in creating jobs. That's what they do, and there is no better, way to create jobs among many other. But like I mentioned initially, SME development through franchising. So I would recommend that you look at the possibility of forming some sort of group. I've seen countries, for example, that started through a specific franchise-related group in a chamber of commerce that got together on a regular basis. They started, sending out press releases, information, doing seminars. It's all about education, like many things. It's about being able to break the barrier and be constant about it. So that would be my take on the institutional approach. Thank you.
Albert, you work in highly developed countries when it comes to franchising, and you did also some work in underdeveloped countries. So I think you're in a very good position to maybe share your views on that.
Sure, thank you. I remember 28 years ago when I first spoke in China about franchising. I've got the strangest questions. Just to give an example, after I talk about franchising, one gentleman in the audience put up his hand and said that this is very strange. Why would why do I have to pay money to join a franchise and promote the brand? Since I'm promoting the brand for the franchisor should pay me an advertising fee. So it's very strange. But you know what? 28 years later, China now has the world's biggest franchise show. It's even bigger than Paris. And so I would like to share this. I think communication. The media has to do lots of stories about franchising. Marcel talked about institution. What we have done too is we actually go from polytechnic to polytechnic, university to university, telling the students that one of the fastest ways to become an entrepreneur, and one of the fastest and safest way is through franchising. So we start telling them, the basics about franchising. Of course, we are fair. We tell them the pros and cons, that, in this life, there will be bad people who are bad franchisors who are out to cheat. So you need to be careful. But generally, through, the media, newspapers, through the schools, and then we also do activities like we actually invite people to a franchisor, let's say a restaurant, and then get the franchisor to actually share with the people and say, look, I've been doing very well. I have a name for myself. I figured out how to do it really well. I'm looking for franchisees. So we actually bring them on, restaurant visits and cafe visits. So they understand, so, oh, you mean I can become like you? You mean you're going to teach me and coach me? So things like that. So the communication and education work need to be done. Yes.
I started franchising 32 years ago. And I mean in the Middle East region. And nobody knew anything about franchising at that time. I used to receive calls in my office, people asking for the French consulate. They're thinking, because of the similarity and the pronunciation, we are representing the French consulate, and they wanted to take a visa to France. And I heard so many strange questions, and even the pronunciation of the word franchising. Some people used to say franchising. So how's the franchising word, Mr. Sari? So yes, I mean, with time, there should be a lot of awareness and education and training and helping people to get to understand franchising. Listen, we need to break for prayer in maybe 12 minutes. So we can take a few more questions, and then we break maybe for 15 minutes, and then we resume at 6 o'clock. So the next question is, what to do when the franchisor competes with the franchisee in the same market. Talking about exclusivity here, right? Albert?
Well, okay. So the thing is, what is actually agreed upon and what is written in the contract. You know, it is very common for, in fact, it should be you know, it is a must. At least that's what we advise all our clients, that you are very clear about the territory. You know, is it exclusive? And if you say exclusive, you know, do you have a map to actually show, you know, it's from this road to that road or this building to that building, you know, and very specific. And exclusivity in what? You know, for example, if it's Starbucks and Starbucks say, yeah, you know, I promise that I will not open another outlet and compete with you within this 5-mile radius, but that excludes all this bottled coffee, which I'm selling at 7-Eleven, and it's in the contract. So all these fine print are actually already in the contract. So reading the contract, you know, and both parties understanding that these are the, you know, exceptions, or these are the things that are already inside, then you have no case, you know. Marcel, maybe your take on this.
Yeah, quickly, just to mention that one thing that is very common nowadays, you know, it wasn't 10 years, 20 years ago, and has to be looked at is what happens when there's online sales. Who do those sales belong to? That's also a territory. It's a virtual territory. So that is something that both sides need to agree on. And unfortunately, when you have it not agreed on it and you start doing online sales, you were bound to get in some conflict. So I would stress that the virtual online sales marketplace, especially in the world we're living now, is very important. So that would be something to take a look at.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Khalfan says, unfortunately, I did not attend the session from the beginning. Could you give us a brief introduction about speakers? This presentation will be available if you request it from the Dubai Entrepreneurship Academy. You can get a copy of the entire presentation, including the speaker's background, and of course, a view on demand recorded session will also be available on social media. So please, after a few days, maybe we can upload that, and then you can watch that on demand. And then, is it important to all to fill the attendance list so we can send the presentation after the session? I think that was from Mr. Ismail. And then the next one.
Mr. Sari.
Yes, sir. I just read your message. I thought it's a question, but I'll just.
Everyone who's attending the workshop,
yes,
someone fill the attendance form so we can be able to send them the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Another question, please, Mr. Mohammed. Is it always to refer to franchisor as the first party, to the franchisee as the third party? So who is second party? There is no third party, Mr. Mohammed. There is the first party, which is the franchisor, and there is the second party, which is the franchisee. In sub-franchise situations, there may be three parties to the agreement, which is the franchisor, the master franchisee who grants the sub-franchise rights to the sub-franchisee. And therefore, there would be, in that case, three parties. But franchisor is first party, franchisee is second party. Next question is Mr. Medhat al-Masri again. Thank you very much for contributing to the value of this presentation. Over the last few years, with a huge increase in startups ecosystems, VC and angel investors and the full support of government is almost full support of governments in almost most of the countries for startups, SMEs. We are started to face challenge on the concept of franchising model. What is the worldwide trend? Increasing, decreasing, or stagnant? It's a lengthy question, but I think it's a very good one.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my take on it is the collaborative way of doing business is growing increasingly by everything, again, everything going on and the way things are right now. I personally feel that any type of collaborative way of doing business, whether it's franchising, licensing, distribution, is on the rise. It's growing. You know, it allows companies to expand without having direct involvement, direct investment. So we personally have seen companies that in the past had not looked at franchising, that are asking questions about it, and are realizing that it is an interesting model to be able to replicate a successful business. The challenges are mostly faced on the traditional way of doing franchising, where you have a heavy upfront fee, which can be, you know, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending who you talk to, the high number of units, for example. But most franchisors that are doing business and are adapting themselves to the new realities are being very flexible in these scenarios. And we always tell clients that are looking to franchise, when you determine a franchise fee for your franchisees, make sure you're considering a cost recovery method. Make sure you're trying to recover your costs, that you're not trying to make money off the franchise fee, because if you find the right franchisee, your income is going to come from a royalty stream. So I do think that there is an increase of the model of collaborative business, which includes franchising, licensing, distribution. Thank you.
Albert?
Well, you know, startups are a common phenomenon now everywhere around the world, you know, and there will always be, you know, private equity people and angel investors that will be interested in certain startups. But if you were to objectively look at the real numbers, a lot of startups just disappear very quickly, you know. And even those that had attracted a lot of money, because the concept is not proven, sometimes they also just, you know, die a natural death. So I think startups will continue to be there. As long as human beings are creative, there will always be startups, you know. But the thing about franchising, at least I think between Sari, Marcel, and myself, we will only urge a company to go into franchising and become a franchisor if, you know, their concept has been proven, you know, if they have already achieved success and it's not a startup, you know. So it won't go away, you know, and rich people will be excited about some projections and, you know, some possible innovation, especially in the IT arena. But you know, franchising to us is actually replicating something that is proven successful already. Yeah, so they can coexist, no problem. But I don't think franchising will therefore diminish because of the startups. It won't. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Albert. Thanks, Marcel. Mr. Rashid Al-Falasi, if food and beverage is new to you, then I recommend franchising. It's a fast way and shortcut with success. I got a franchise business and I'm not regretting. Oh, that's a very good comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Falasi. Then the next one, we still have people coming to the session. I think I had this. These are all the questions so far. So maybe we break for prayer. We resume at exactly maybe 6 o'clock, if that's okay with you. And then don't go very far. We have a lot to talk about. regarding the best option to start a business, whether it's to obtain a franchise business or to start your own business. And we'll be here when you come back. Thank you very much and see you soon. Cheers. So welcome once again, everyone. I hope you had a good break and a good prayer. And I'd like to start my session now on the pros and cons of obtaining a franchise versus establishing your own business. And I want to refer to this image here because whatever path you choose in your life, it will be full of goodies. My promise to you, if you work hard and do your best to make your business successful, you will always have good successes ahead of you. My presentation, I'd like to start with the entrepreneur traits because this is really important. We need to connect between the entrepreneurship and franchising. And this is what I'm trying to do here. So the entrepreneur is the person who sees what other people don't see. And knowing, like we do know about franchising, some of you don't, but this can be brilliance. Like it's a great thing to know things, yes? But if you see what other people don't see, it's genius. And here I congratulate you, all of you, because you're all geniuses, because you're here today, you want to learn, but you have a vision, which is important. So here is some of the entrepreneur traits. The first one is leadership. All entrepreneurs, they lead. Other people follow. So this is one of the most important elements of the characteristics of an entrepreneur. Being visionary, being a dreamer. It is important to dream about what you want to do in life. Daydreaming is important. I'm not talking about dreaming during your sleep. You dream about what you want to achieve in your life. You build your own values. You dream about making successes in life, how you can help people around you. And I can see here strategic planning is as important. Creativity, which is basically genius in working closes. Creativity, look at anything in what you do and just stop for a moment and say, how can I do this better? Just tiny little bit better. And then creativity comes because you will introduce new things and new ideas to whatever you're doing. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you will end up getting the same results. Passionate. No business whatsoever without passion, no relationship without passion. You have to put all your passion, all your excitement into your business. Risk is another element. Most people don't like to take risks. And you know, if they don't take risks, what they do? They stay where they are. They don't learn from mistakes. Persuasive, he needs to talk all people in his team about his vision, make them understand and get them to follow his lead in achieving the vision. Management in general is getting people to do whatever you want them to do because they want to do it. And here's persuasiveness. It becomes more of an alignment of goals. You get your people aligned together with you to achieve your vision. socially skilled. Of course, most entrepreneurs are, very social, very open. They like people. They like to get things done through people. Discipline is important. There is no success whatsoever without discipline. That the amount of time you put into your business, the amount of time you put into maintaining your body, your mind, your spiritual balance is all important. Being disciplined. And of course, hardworking. There is no success without hard work. All elevators and escalators to success are out of order. You have to take the steps, one step at a time. That's a lot of hard work. And then, of course, self-motivated. Most leaders, most visionaries, they're motivated. They wake up and because they want to do something. They wake up in the morning and they have one goal to achieve. Some people start their day and they start writing their agenda for the day. But some other people, they start with a full agenda to fulfill during the day. That's the difference between an entrepreneur and just an employee of some sort. Decisiveness. So you know your vision, you know your goals, and you work hard to achieve them. So that's basically some of the traits that I thought I can share with you. And I hope that maybe through this exercise, you can evaluate yourself, do your SWOT analysis on yourself and see which are your strongest points in all of this and which are your weakest points. And then you capitalize on your strengths and try to improve in your weaknesses. Nobody has all of these traits together in one person, but I hope this is a good guideline for you as an entrepreneur to evaluate where you are when it comes to buying a franchise or starting your own business. Here, everything starts with an idea. And this is like basically a breakdown of how many thoughts we have every day. And there has been many researches, and I found out that an average person has 6,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot of thoughts. But unfortunately, the 80% of these thoughts are negative thoughts. 95% are repetitive thoughts. 85% of what we worry about never happens. And then 97% of our worries are baseless. And I want to refer here to 4 letters. Fear, the word fear. And fear refers to false evidence appearing real, because fear is one of the limitations any entrepreneur can face. But look at these numbers again, and I want to stop here. So 95% of your thoughts are repetitive. That means what? It means that you have 5% new ideas, new thoughts. How much is that? If you make a small calculation, means if you have 6,000 thoughts a day, then there is 300 new thoughts. Or if you have 60,000, if your brain is so active, then you have how much? 3,000 thoughts. That's a lot of thoughts. And any one of these thoughts can make a big success, can make a big business. So if you're aware of these percentages, what you need to do is to seek new ideas and new thoughts and get rid of the negative thoughts and always put into your mind good ideas, good thoughts, positive energy, so that you continue with your business successfully. Here is a small thing. A dream written down with a date So you start with a dream, but if you write down your dream and put a date to it, then it becomes a goal. So a goal, if you break it down into steps, like an action plan, then you have a plan. And if you have a plan backed up by action or actions, then you start implementing your dream, and then your dream becomes a reality. I thought these few slides for me to share with you before we get into the nitty-gritty of franchising is important. Me, myself, I love self-development and personal growth, and I have the chance to teach some values during my presentations. So I hope that you like that, and maybe it's time now to get to the pros and cons of obtaining a franchise versus starting your own business. What I have done here is that I have researched and maybe hundreds of factors for starting a business or obtaining a franchise. And what I found out that there's too many, and it's hard to categorize. So I have put them under certain factors, like brand recognition. So if you're buying a franchise, what you're buying is a brand, a brand because it's a popular brand, because it's an important brand. Some of you say, okay, not all popular brands are available for small entrepreneurs. That's true, but let's take a local franchise from the UAE, and if you embark with a very small unit on that franchise, then most probably you have a chance to better chances for success. You have a customer base, you have customer trust to start with, and you have access to marketing plans, which is proven successful, and you have access to initial and ongoing marketing support. And you have a fully functioning website and social media channels. So you start here with a known brand, with all the marketing tools available and proven successful, and you don't have to spend on any of that. The disadvantage of obtaining a franchise from a brand recognition point of view, the marketing plans may not address the local market variables. So you have a North American brand, you have a European brand, they have used some tools that is proven successful in their own market, but when it comes to implementation in the UAE, maybe some of these tools will not work. Then you have the possibility of maybe somebody has a dispute with the franchisor company, or maybe you have product liability cases, and then this will cause damage to the brand. And of course, we all heard about Chapter 11, Chapter 14, and Chapter 17, and this is like filing for bankruptcy, because they, especially during these days, during Corona days, some of the biggest companies in franchising in the United States have submitted for bankruptcy, and that is a financial solution to overcome the financial crisis and maybe find solutions for their debts. So that's when it comes to a brand. Any of these will affect the brand name. Now, when you start your own business, what happens is that you have all the possibilities to build your own brand name. And maybe this brand name will become very popular one day, and maybe you will become a franchisor yourself. You have the chance of reducing your own marketing plans, which is applicable in your own market. And then you can create your own franchise network, and which is related to your brand name. Now, the disadvantage of that is that you have a lesser opportunity against bigger businesses, at least at the beginning, Now, most real estate owners and mall manager prefer to take recognized brands, bigger brands. And they say, sorry, like we cannot take you into our food court because your brand name is not very well known. What they're seeking here, they're seeking traffic, because big brands brings traffic to the mall. Now, it is also difficult to exit the business. If you want, after a few years, and you have an unknown brand, and you want to exit the business, it will be very difficult for you to do so, as opposed to maybe owning a very good and popular brand and successful and profitable. Then your chances of exiting the business will be much more. Now, the next one, and let me just remove this here, it's the learning curve. This is really important, because if you are, some people go to, visit some countries, and they come back and they say, okay, I had the best burger ever. It's great, I love it. But this is not what you're buying. If you like burger, then go and have burger every day. But what you're buying into is the management system, is the learning curve. So the first one is that you, and this is very famous in franchising, this is a famous quote, you embark on the top of the learning curve, which means, of course, that you avoid the trial and error, because you have a full set of operating manuals covering processes and procedures, which is ready for implementation. And then you have access to accumulated experience and technical knowledge in operating the business. This is what franchising is about. Franchising is about three things: the right to use the trade name and trademark, the right to use the business system, which is this slide, and the right to sell the products and services. So the first slide, we talked about brand, which is the right to use the trade name and trademark. And this second slide, we're talking about the know-how and business system. Now, so what are the disadvantages of buying a franchise when it comes to the learning curve? Some franchisors are so imposing in and demanding in making the franchisee follow their system and processes and procedures. There is an obligation by the franchisee to follow the franchisor standard operating procedures, and to some entrepreneurs, they don't want to do that. They want to create their own ideas. They want to implement new marketing ideas, or maybe new product or service, or so. That will never happen in a franchise scenario. Then when you're a franchisee, because you have the franchisor has passed through the trial and error, then you become mistakes intolerant. No resilience to making mistakes. Like, one of the best things they can advise your people is that go out and do some mistakes. You only learn from your mistakes. Then if you're starting your own business, then developing your own learning curve. This is really important. So you build step by step, little by little, day after day, your own learning curve. You learn through your mistakes, because there is no franchisor that imposes on you business system or so forth. It's a plus, but there is also the minus side of it. And then you establish your own operating systems applicable to your own variables, because some of the operating manuals that the franchisor gave you may not be applicable in your own market, and you'll have to revisit them anyway, and we call that geographical customization of the business system. Now, if you're starting your own business, when it comes to learning curve, the disadvantage is it is a much steeper learning curve. So you work hard to build your business system. Here, where you get everything ready in a golden plate. Now, The second is inadequate launch plans, which means which lead to prolonged pre-operating period. If you don't have the launch plans ready from the franchisor here, then you start drawing your own launch plans, and maybe that will take time to implement, and that means pre-operating period is longer and associated with some costs, like pre-opening costs, like rent and salaries and so forth. And of course, it's not easy to develop and implement SOPs. Some people have the best SOPs, but they cannot be implemented. It takes years to implement the actual standard operating procedures perfectly in a business. Now, the next factor is the management and operation. So again, a turnkey, proven successful business. This is what you're getting when you take a franchise. And that means that you're running the business with a smaller management structure because you rely on the support from the franchisor. Then the stronger, one third point here is stronger purchasing power. And that relates to the operational side of the business. So you have the optimum quality, cost-effective raw material, and efficient supply chain. In my professional opinion, I think supply chain is the backbone of any franchise success. It is important to have the right product at the right time in the right place. But that comes also with some disadvantages, and let's have a look at that. So a business system may not always be applicable to certain regions, countries. We talked about that. You cannot implement it because it was created in a different country or a different culture, and you have to customize it. Then relying entirely on the franchisor supply chain. And that has a negative side because many franchisors dictate to the franchisee that they must buy, proprietary products, or maybe sometimes all products from them or from their nominated suppliers. And I hear, the franchisees scream, the products is really expensive. I can find it and source it in my own market at a much cheaper price with the same quality. So that's one disadvantage. And some franchisors may dictate where the franchise purchases or product or service from. So they say, okay, here is this product, but you need to buy it from that supplier. And then again, maybe this is not the best solution for a win-win franchise business. Now, if you're starting your own business, you don't have the turnkey proven successful business, but you have what? You have the freedom of utilizing custom-made managerial and operational procedures that you create. You're free to create things. You have the possibilities of growing the management structure. Now I'm referring to smaller management structure, but here you can build up your organizational chart together as you expand the business, as you grow the business. Then the disadvantage of starting your own business when it comes to management and operation is developing and implementing business system, of course, along an exhausting process. Exaggeration in the development of human resources and assets. Here, some entrepreneurs, they start with a big organization and the business cannot afford to have this huge organizational structure, and they end up losing money because they spend more money on the administration and management and so forth. Then the point here, another one disadvantage is the research. Here, when you take a franchise, they give you the results of all the research, the surveys they made, and they know exactly what you want to do. But the research can be costly here because you don't have that. You have to do your own research, and and then you develop your own supply chain system, which can be at the beginning very costly. Now, another factor is business growth and improvement. And this is really important because with buying a franchise here, you have limitations. But let's talk about it, about the advantages first. Business growth and expansion is guided by the franchisor and its support team, which is great. Somebody is there for you to tell you how you grow your business and expand your business. Sales growth is supported by the franchisor brand awareness, which is the brand recognition. Remember the first slide we talked about, and of course, the proven successful marketing plans. Now, the franchisee has an utter emphasis on managerial and operation success. If you have all of that in place, somebody is guiding you how to grow your business. So you have emphasis, you have your full attention to the managerial and operational success. So what are the disadvantages of buying a franchise when it comes to business growth and improvement? Growth is limited. And you tell me how? Because your expansion plan are restricted by geographical jurisdiction. When you buy a franchise for a certain region or a certain country, or even if you're taking only one unit, in case of single unit franchise, is protected by one radius of say 10 kilometers or something. So you're restricted, you cannot expand the number of units. And then when you take a franchise, there might be a problem at the end of the franchise contract because the franchisor doesn't want to renew your contract. Then what happens? All the goodwill, all the successes, all the achievements will go back to the franchisor. Now, in this case, this is what I was trying to explain here. Everything is gone in one moment. You have to surrender all your successes, all the business systems, all the reputation that you have built in the marketplace to your franchisee. Now, if you're starting your own business, and let's have a look at the positive side here. No limits imposed to the growth of a startup business. It's only limited by your vision. No, there is no franchisor that says, no, you cannot expand into this territory because it's not your territory, it's somebody else's territory. So you can grow the sales, your income, your profits, and you're not restricted because of the fees you're paying to the franchisee. Now, all franchise contracts have clauses for improvement and renovation of the units. And it's stipulated that you have to renew your franchise unit sometimes 3 years, or sometimes in other contracts it's 5 years, but it's there. And there is cost involved, whether or not the unit needs renovation. So here you have your own idea of when to renovate and when to improve your units. And then if you take on a franchise, you cannot take additional shareholders or joint venturers unless you take a consent or approval from the franchisor. And there will be 100 questions and interviews, and it's not an easy process to expand your business when you're taking a franchise. But if you are in your own, starting your own business, then you have the freedom to grow your business by inviting others to inject cash into the business and make it expand. Now, the disadvantage when it comes to business growth and improvement, it takes hard work and exhaustive research and strategic planning to get your business up and running. It's not easy to start a business. It's a lot of work. If you don't have the support from the franchisee, you are in your own. And most probably, you need to work very hard in improving the system and growing the business on your own. I have something, I think it's in the next slide. It's about the lonely experience of starting a business. but let's just move ahead. So when it comes to the next factor, which is control and business monitoring and reporting, and which is basics of any franchise contract, the franchisor must control, must police, must monitor, and must have a reporting system from the franchisee. Now, the advantage of that is that it helps you in the uniformity of procedures, quality control, and customer satisfaction. If you have somebody over your shoulder saying, this is what you need to do, you cannot do this, then, and you need to report to me every month about what you're doing, and at the end of the year, we have to do like an official audit, financial audit of the business, then it's easier to identify problems at the beginning. And then you can work to solve them. Now, the disadvantage of that is some entrepreneurs don't like it. They find it intrusive. Why you want to police my location? Why you want to audit why do you want me to send you a report? And I refer to my good friend Albert said about the relationship. And here, at this stage of teenage relationship, the franchisee refuses to not only to pay royalties, but refuses to report and allow the franchisor to take, or exercise control over the business. Now, one great disadvantage is you cannot be creative. You cannot bring in new ideas unless with the approval of the franchisor. You cannot introduce a new product. You cannot say, okay, this is how I want to design my new unit. Or maybe this is how I want to operate the day-to-day business. There is no room for creativity here when you're taking a franchise. If you have a new idea, you need to share it with the franchisor. You need to get his approval. They need to test it first before they allow you to even implement it in your own unit. Now, if you're starting your own business from the control and monitoring and reporting system, you're independent business owner. You don't need to report to anybody. Which, of course, again, has a kind of disadvantage, because if you're not reporting or you don't have the right reporting system, then you cannot identify the challenges or problems that maybe occur in the business. Now, one of the advantages is that you have full control of the strategic directions and daily operation. You're free. It's your own business. You decide whatever you want, where you want to go, where you want to expand, how you're going to increase your sales, what kind of marketing tools. So you have full control. Now, the disadvantage of that, you may commit to really some very costly mistakes. And everybody does mistakes, but bigger companies have the ability to cover the cost of mistakes. If you're a small operator, one small mistake can ruin the business. So this is very important. As an independent owner or entrepreneur, you need to understand that without franchising, that you can do really costly mistakes. And then inadequate reporting system may result in business floundering and flopping. So you don't have a reporting system, and you don't know any decision that you take in your business should be based on information, and specifically financial information. So if you want to buy a new uniform, or you want to introduce some new menu item, then what you do is that you need information to support your decision. If you don't have that reporting system here, then you have a problem taking the right decision. Now, the next one is financials. Okay, so here is one thing. Do you know the letters FM, the radio channel FM, yeah? And do you know that there is another channel, the preferred channel, radio channel for business people, which is WIFM. And you say, what is that? And it's an acronym. It's 4 letters, 4 words, which is what's in it for me. So whatever your decision you're making here, whether you want to start your own business or buy a franchise, you should ask yourself, what's in it for me? WIFM. Now, and this is the bottom line. People buy franchises or start business because what? Because they want to make money at the end of the day. Yeah. So the first advantage here is with the initial and ongoing franchise fee that you're paying to the franchisor, you're getting initial and ongoing support and training and other help from the franchisor. Now, what happens when you receive this support is that you have full focus on increasing sales and profit. So you might be financially better, in a better situation when you take a franchise. I'm saying you might. Then when you take a franchise, and I get this in many cases, some young entrepreneurs want to take a franchise, but they want to take some funding or finance. And we have in this great country so many supporting funds to support SMEs and entrepreneurs. But when you go with an unknown brand, no support and no guidance, most probably it will not be easy to secure funding for your business. Now, so what are the disadvantages if you buy a franchise when it comes to financials? Of course, here is one thing I need you to remember this all the time. In franchising, there should be enough money to be shared between 2 parties, because you're in the investment level, you're paying a franchise fee, hopefully reasonable, and you're paying a royalty from what? Your direct cost. If you look at your profit and loss statement, from the first level, there is a royalty of, I don't know what, 4, 5, 6, 7%, and you're paying that, and that which affects what? The bottom line. So if there is not enough money to cover these royalties and at the end of the day make good profits for you, then your business in a financial problem. Now, the additional financial burden to the investment level and profit and loss statement, which I just mentioned, then one major disadvantage is that whatever profits, whatever financial gains you made, it will stop by the expiration or termination of the franchise agreement. So on the other side, if you're there is no stop, there is no termination, there is no expiration of an agreement. It's your company, and your company will go on forever. Now, back to the disadvantage of buying a franchise. There are, if you want to sell the business, remember the exit part in the previous slide. If you want to sell the franchise, they will impose on you that you have to pay part of the sale price to the franchisor. And this, you say, why? I did that. I want to exit and I want to take the money. And they say, no, we'll have to train a new franchisee. We need support, and we need to help him get up and running. So you cannot, there is, all franchise contracts has a resale agreement. They call it reassignment, but it has its financial implications, and you may end up not making very good money after all when you sell the business. Now, when it comes to starting your own business related to the financial factor, there is no franchise fees, no royalties, no whatsoever, right? So your profit, you have a much healthier, of course, in the structure wise profit and loss statement that doesn't have royalties and pre-operating expenses, that has the amortization of the franchise fee over the term of the contract. Now, if you're a startup the costs are significantly less at the beginning, than the cost associated with taking a franchise, because there is no franchise fee. Now, the house profits without the royalty and marketing contribution, and marketing contribution is the amount of money. It's not like royalty. The market levy or marketing contribution is the percentage from total turnover that you pay to the franchisee, to the franchisor for marketing support. And you say, how come you're in America and you cannot support, provide marketing in this region? But they say, no, we invest in research, we develop tools, we provide designs and so forth, and you still have to pay some sort of a percentage in your relationship with your franchisor. But that does not mean that net profit will always be better, because if you have the support and help from the franchisor and you focus on increasing sales and finessing the operations, then you might as well make more money on the long term. Now, the disadvantages of starting your own business from a financial point of view is no initial and ongoing support. So here you paid for a franchise fee and you're paying royalty and marketing levy, but you're not getting any support. So that's one negative point. Independent business usually have higher overall costs on the long run. Just be careful with that on the long run. Maybe on the short run here, you're avoiding paying the franchise fee and royalties, but maybe on the long run, because you're not making enough money, then you have higher costs on the long run. Now, if you want to secure funding here, when you go to a funding firm and say, okay, I want some finance, I want some kind of financial support, maybe it's not easy to persuade them that with your independent business you can get any finances. All funding firms, all banks, they give you money if they know that you have more money than the money you're borrowing. And so what if I have the money, why I have to borrow? But that's the question that really faces many of the young entrepreneurs. Now, the next one is franchisee network. So when you start your franchise, you're part of a franchise network, hopefully successful and happy franchisees. And you gain the confidence because you're not alone. You're working, you know that you have this trust in yourself because you're working with a bigger network of franchisees regionally or maybe around the world. Maybe they are in thousands, maybe there are hundreds, but you're still part of a bigger group. Now, the support from other franchisees, starting even from before you sign in the contract and you go and ask other franchisees about how was your experience with the franchisor, they voluntarily gave you their opinion, honest opinion, that it was a good experience. We love our franchisor, but sometimes it's not the case. Then when you're part of this group, then you have the annual conferences that all franchisees go to, and of course that helps with the strengthening the family spirit. To the extent that some franchisors, they offer franchisee of the year awards in big conferences like that. The best franchisee for quality, the best franchisee for sales, and so forth. Now, when you're buying a franchise as related to the network, franchise network factor, there are some disadvantages. What if some of the franchisees has done something wrong in the business and caused the business to fail in his unit or territory or what? That will give a bad impact on the entire network. Now, some franchisees may have undesirable influence on the franchisor decision. Believe it or not, in the United States, there are some franchisees that are bigger than the franchisor. They own companies, they have multiple brands, and they are financially and organizationally bigger than the franchisor. And in that case, they may exercise power over the franchisor, affecting his decision when it comes to the entire franchise network. Now, if you're starting your own business, with relation to, if you don't have a franchisee network, but what you have is not, what the advantage is that nobody from the franchisee network can do something that damage your units. Now, you have the possibility of your building your network. It's not a franchise network, but it's still a network of business associates and partners and so forth. So you still have, can have the confidence of being part of a bigger group when you're starting your own business. Now, the disadvantage of that, the starting your own business can be a very lonely experience, especially when you don't have the right people around you, especially when you don't have your family to support you. If you're in your own, it's really, really lonely. And especially in these times, during coronavirus, where people meet virtually, I mean, the internet effect causes people stress and, loneliness and so forth. And the psychological cost, if you're alone, if you can't find somebody to help you, if you don't have the right partners or associates or team members, then you have to deal with a lot of stress and exhaustion. So that is related to the franchisee network if you're starting your own business or buying a franchise. Now, the next one is legalities and geographical presence. Now, buying a franchise, a good franchise agreement, what happens? It's a win-win. Albert talked about win-win situations. Marcel also talked about win-win scenarios. So what you're buying here is a win-win scenario, and that's a good franchise agreement. If it's not a great franchise agreement, then win-win is not there. Most probably, in maybe 99% of the cases, all franchise contracts are biased to the franchisor, because they, at the end of the day, they want protect their trade name and trademark and business system. But a good franchise agreement provides the advantage of initial and ongoing support. The franchisor is obligated to you to provide the support and training and help and advice and guidance and so forth. Now, the disadvantage of buying a franchise from that factor, the legalities and geographical presence, sometimes the franchise is a complex agreement, and there are many agreements in this world. There is the American agreement, there is the English agreement, there is the Australian and New Zealand agreement, which is really lengthy and complicated. It can reach 120 pages and imposes some strange clauses. And I'm not offending our Aussies and Kiwi friends here, but it's a really lengthy agreement. What we have done in the Middle East, we created an Arabic version of the it's not necessarily in Arabic language, but it is Arabized when it comes to the clauses, avoiding things like interest, which is haram, avoiding things like the principal or guarantor of and many business people don't like these clauses, reducing the arbitration clause, because again, the Arab culture does not really in favor of such arbitration. Now, so the bottom line here is that we have now our own Arabized franchise agreement, and we're happy to share our knowledge on that with you. Then the business activity here, you have an agreement, but you're limited in your geographical presence. You cannot expand outside of your franchise territory. Now, starting your own business, when it comes to legalities, you don't have the advantages is that you don't have any obligations or responsibilities toward a third party. Now, no restriction on territory or market areas. That's great. But what are the disadvantages? Freedom of obligations, and it may lead to lack of ingenuity and commitment to achieving goals. So if you don't have obligations, you don't have the responsibilities toward the franchisor, what happens is that you maybe as a lonely independent entrepreneur, like you can commit to mistakes. You don't have a commitment to make your business successful as compared to working with a good franchisor. Now, the next disadvantage is there might be a need for costly external consultant. If you don't have the advice and guidance from your franchisor, so you maybe need third-party consultants to help you and support you and offer advice and guidance to business growth and sales and whatever have you. So now we talked about eight factors here, and I explained totally unbiased the pros and cons for each one of them with relation to buying a franchise or starting your own business. Now the next slide is, let's look at the numbers here. So there are many researches about startups, independent businesses, and franchise. So according to 2019, which is 3 years, recent, I would say recent, based on official census data, the 2-year franchise success rate is about 8% higher than independent business success rate. Now, the 1-year survival rate, and all businesses go through the first stage, which is very agonizing, and most businesses go out of business during the first 3 years. So the 1-year success rate for franchises is about 6.3%, higher than the independent business. So what it says here that franchising has a better chance of surviving and a better chance of success. Now, let's look at the other side. Statistics show that 25% of startup business fail within the first year. That's not very good news. And 50% of the remaining fail within 5 years. So what happens to the rest? They fail in the last 10 years. So what they're trying to promote here through these statistics, and like I'm saying, I'm totally unbiased here. I'm just showing you published statistics with these numbers. So you might consider them, or you might say, no, I don't believe in it. I just want to start my own business anyway. Now, statistics show that 20% of startup business don't survive the first year. Bad news. About half make it to year 5, and approximately 35% last 10 years. Again, whatever numbers you're reading here were published by franchise support groups, those who are in favor of franchising. I'm not saying it's not correct. I'm just saying just consider the author. Because if you, at the end of the day, if you want to start your own business, it might as well be a very good decision, as we say. Now, what is the bottom line here? What is the conclusion? So you want to buy a franchise because it's a successful business model and profitable, and it gives you the stable, tested model for running a successful business. Yes. And what is the drawback then? The drawback is that you will end up making successes for someone else. Remember, at the end of the franchise agreement duration, you will surrender all the achievement and successes to the franchisee. Now, for those of you with a clear vision, and remember when we said a clear vision into the future, where you're going, you know exactly where you're going. And here I want to say, vision meaning having the right map in your mind on where you're going. Just imagine that you're driving, and now without the Google map in Dubai, and most probably you'll take the wrong exit and find yourself at the airport. But what if you have the wrong map? It doesn't matter how you accelerate, you will end up nowhere, no matter what you do. So clear vision, that's your map. Yeah. So if you have a clear vision and you have the entrepreneur traits that we talked about previously, like leadership, vision, dreaming, convincing, you remind me what else was in this slide, then please go ahead and start your own business. Because at the end of the day here, it's your choice. I cannot tell you, if you ask me 100 times, do I start my own business or do I buy a franchise? Of course, I'm a franchise trainer and a consultant for 32 years, and I know what are the benefits, but there are great cases of success for independent businesses as opposed to franchising. Many franchises have failed when they come to our region. And you have the big names, big players, and they tried to re-enter the market, and it was really difficult. Some of them did, and they failed again. So franchising is not a formula for success unless you're ready to make it successful. Again, startup business, independent businesses is not also a formula for success. You need to work hard and build your system, and remember, take the steps one step at a time, and build your own growth and expansion and so forth. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say here is that your decision is only guided by what you believe in. And that's important. Now, I'd like to ask Mr. Ismail to maybe involve the participants in a quick polling. We have less than 5 minutes, Mr. Ismail.
Sure, I will be sharing it now with the participants.
Yeah, let's just launch basically what I want to do here is to get your opinion after what you've learned during 3 hours, or 3 hours minus the prayer time. What do you want to do now? Do you want to start a franchise, or do you want start your own business? So here is the one question with 2 answers. The first one, I want to obtain a franchise, and the second one is start my own business. And I hope you're seeing the screen, all of you, because it's showing now. And please go ahead and just contribute to the poll, please.
Just choose the answer, and by the end, I'll be sharing the results.
Yes, sir.
Participants are not being active. There's only 4 of them who actually answered. Please try to answer.
Yeah. We've been very generous sharing with you our knowledge. So please go ahead and be generous and let us know what you think. You want to start your own business, or you want to take a franchise? I think we have some comments which I'm not able to read.
Okay, no problem, guys. I will relaunch the poll again.
Yeah.
So you guys can answer it again, because some of them, I think they're having some difficulties
I have somebody who says, I answered, but it showed the poll closed before you answered. So maybe.
Now it's on again.
Yeah.
So you guys can start the answer.
Yeah, now it's quicker, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, it was red. That means it was paused or something. I can see the bar for starting my own business is longer than obtain a franchise so far.
We'll give them extra 20 seconds and then we'll share the results.
Yes, sir, please. But I have a comment here. It only appears for 2 seconds, but we have 17 participants so far. Yeah, no more participants, Mr. Ismail, so you might as well.
Okay, I will be sharing the results. So far, it's showing 7 participants answered with obtaining a franchise, which is 41%, and 10 of them answered with starting their own business. I'll be sharing the results now.
Yes, sir. So do you all see? I mean, yeah. So I hope that we didn't influence your decision in any way. We wanted you to be free of taking your own decision. We wanted to be totally neutral, although that franchising, is our life. But this is what happened. I don't know. Can they see the result now, Mr. Ismail?
I have removed the result. I shared it to everyone, but I removed it after that.
All right. So now, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being part of this webinar. I must thank again Dubai SME and Dubai Entrepreneurship Academy for giving us this chance to talk about what we know in franchising. Thank you, Marcel, for your contribution and your in-depth knowledge. Thank you, Albert. And I must tell you, time now in Singapore is 11 o'clock in the evening. And today was Albert's birthday. So happy birthday, Albert. He canceled his birthday party to be with us. So thank you very much again, Albert. Thank you, Mr. Ismail. Thank you, Ms. Rania. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all participants. It was a great experience for all of us. And I hope it was as good for you. Please feel free to contact us in our email or through the Dubai Entrepreneurship Academy, or visit our website, and we would love to help you with your plans for starting a franchise or maybe obtaining your own business. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sari. Thank you so much, Albert. Thanks for everyone who attended this workshop. Reminder for all the participants, I'll be sharing a link with you guys so you can fill up the survey so we can improve our servers and we can reach to your
Excellent
knowledge and we can deliver it to you guys.
Please do. Thank you very much. All right.
Happy birthday, Albert, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Sari, for your time. Appreciate your time.
See you soon. Thank you, sir.
شكرا ساري.
Your camera is on, Mr. Mohanad.